There's something to be nice said about all different areas in Colorado Springs, but what you probably don't hear much about is the bad things about Colorado Springs. So today we're going to talk about the places to avoid and why you should be avoiding those places in and around Colorado Springs.
And as you guys know, my name is Crystal, this is Sean, and we are your local real estate agents here to help you. If you are thinking about moving to Colorado Springs, we want to be your agents.
So today, I want to kick it off with the Northside, because a lot of people in Colorado Springs talk about the Northside and how great everything is on the north end, including me. You've probably heard me say I'd live on the north end of town if I was to move again. But with that comes some negatives. And one of the first things I want to mention as your local real estate experts is going to be the HOAs and the metro districts, because if you divide Colorado Springs into north, south, east, and west, I personally believe that the north side is going to come with a lot more expenses than other places in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, for sure. Your HOAs are going to be a lot higher. Your housing is going to be a lot higher in most places.
I was going to say cost of living, just like all of it.
Right. And the cost of living, right? Because you're just in a different part of Colorado Springs, and it's the up and coming, right? It's very established, but it's also like we got the amphitheater. There's more really nice restaurants going into town. There's more entertainment going into town in that area. And so that just kind of jacks up. Like, I even think some of the restaurants have like a weird additional tax on, like when you go out to eat, you have like you have a separate state tax, and then you have like a local tax of some sort too. And so it's not huge, but every few dollars adds up. And so if you're living in that area, you're just going to have higher expenses.
Yeah, and you have heard me say it before, like I would love to live on the north end of town if I was to ever relocate. It's an all-in-one stop shop. You have shopping, you have dining, you have like clothing if you need to go get clothing. There's Lululemons, there's steakhouses, there's entertainment for your kiddos. You're in District 20. Like all of the great things that come with the north side of town. But again, there are just some of those things, and we talked about cost of living and housing, and also comes with cost of living and housing is all the construction that's happening on the north end of town. There was actually a house that we were trying to sell, and to get to this house, there was only one way in. It was like a one road, so you could get in on either side of that road. But for almost the entire duration that we were trying to sell this house, the main entrance on New Life was completely closed off because they were doing like a utility operation, but it took months to get this done. So one of the things that we kept getting for feedback was the location. Like you could only access this street by going 12 minutes all the way around to the opposite end.
It's a pain.
I think where Shields is, if you go to the complete opposite end, you had to go all the way over there to get into this community, and people just hated it. So construction is happening on the north end of town because it is still growing. But yeah, the north end of town definitely will have some challenges still.
Still one of my favorite areas, but...
All right, now we're gonna flip gears, do a complete 180, and talk about the south end of Colorado Springs and even into Fountain. And what you're gonna find with this is gonna be totally different challenges that you're gonna find on the north end of town. And one of them that is a very sneaky one is actually going to be the railroad tracks. If you live on the south end of town, in certain areas on more of the Fountain side, there is a railroad crossing that can be a real nuisance. Some people do not care, some people totally care. We're helping a family move to Colorado Springs right now.
I don't care.
Or even when I go out there to show houses sometimes, if you're in a certain area of Fountain along 85, 87, I think they call it Can-Am Highway now. I don't know why, but this road has had very many changes over the years in terms of what you call it. But there is a railroad track right there, and there are lots of houses that will directly... Bless you.
Sorry.
That directly back up to this railroad track. So if you are the type of person that enjoys peace and quiet and a train track not going through your backyard, this is something that I would consider avoiding, especially if you're moving from out of state. We do video tours for our clients, bless you, all the time. And this is something that I'll point out when I fly the drone up in the air. I'm like, hey, just so you know, there is a railroad crossing right there. Some people care. We've also helped people literally move into a house that backs up to it, and you can usually get a killer deal on it because that's a big no-go for a lot of people. So just something to keep in mind if you're considering the south end of town.
Well, and it's an active railroad. That is one thing about Colorado Springs is there are several different railroad tracks, but a lot of them are not really active. The one that Sean is mentioning is very, very active. So one of the other things on the south side is you're going to be right next to military bases, and Fort Carson does a ton of training, a ton. And so if noise or just kind of, if you struggle with PTSD, I think, or if you have any sensitivities to noise in general, that's probably going to be something that you're going to want to avoid. They do send out a reminder or like a, hey, this is what we're going to be doing, but you're going to forget about it. And then in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m., there's huge like bomb-like sounds and gun sounds. And it's just our military practicing and doing different drills and stuff. So I think that that's something that's really important to know on if that's something that's a concern for you, probably not a good area for you.
Yeah, another thing to consider, south end of Colorado Springs, I would say and into Fountain. You've heard us talk about this more with Fountain, that it's up and coming, that it's growing. They're finally getting a King Soopers. They're finally getting a Chipotle. But I would say on the south end of town, you definitely are going to have a little bit more struggle. Like you're not like way out in the boonies like the Eastside. We'll talk about that later. But you definitely can feel isolated sometimes. And it really just depends on where you're at specifically. But I would say if you go to the Fountain area, that's going to feel a little bit more isolated than like South Colorado Springs that has quick access to certain things. But I definitely think that you can feel a little bit more isolated than you can on like the west side or especially the north side. And it's just not nearly as like mom and pop-ish, especially in Fountain. Like the restaurant selection there is so limited.
Yeah, well, and I think too that it's one of those things where you're south, right? And so you're pretty close to Pueblo, you're pretty close to Colorado Springs. You're like right in the middle, but it's just kind of a whole different feel. Now, the good thing is, you guys, is the cost of living is you can for a pretty affordable amount. Mm-hmm. They are established neighborhoods. And so there are a few different new build communities that are popping up that can give you some new build stuff, but there's not, it's going to be more established homes, which that is, you're going to get an older home and the cost of it is going to be a little bit lower than what if you, like, it's night and day difference in prices when you compare south to north, right? I mean, it's almost double. The same exact house could be in both locations and it's literally double the amount of money.
I hate to pick on Larson Ranch, but I have to pick on Larson Ranch because it's one of those neighborhoods that often comes up. People are browsing online and then they reach out.
Because they have so much inventory.
And they say, hey, what's the deal with Larson Ranch? And it is a community, is it technically Fountain? It's either Fountain or South Colorado Springs.
Still Colorado Springs.
But it is on the south end of town, and it is a high turnover population with our military because it is so close to Schriever. It's so close to Fountain, Fort Carson. So you have a lot of military personnel that go in and buy these houses, but the problem is they're still building there. So the incentives that the new builds offer far outweigh a resale home that's already been lived in. They can give you interest rate reductions. They can give you money off of the price of the home or for landscaping or for whatever. So we see a lot of people that purchase in the Larson Ranch area that are not there for more than a couple years and end up really struggling to sell their home and gain any money, if any at all. So if you're considering the Larson Ranch area, be sure to reach out to us because that can be potentially good depending on your situation.
But I was just going to say,
than not, I think people don't understand what they can potentially be facing. So just a red flag.
It's one of those things though, where like there are a lot of short sales going on right now in the Larson Ranch area because of that situation. Now, if you have time and you plan on, starting your family and it's going to be like a 5 to 10 year thing that you're going to be there, then maybe not a bad thing. I will say that the Wi-Fi and the internet in Larson Ranch is probably the worst. It's almost worse than going all the way out to the country.
It is worse.
And I think some of the feedback that we get from people who live in Larson Ranch is it is on the outskirts and there's not a lot of growth when it comes to restaurants like a Walmart, a Safeway, King Soopers. None of that is there. So you are about an 15 minute drive from the time that you leave your house just to get to anything. And so that's probably like some of the feedback where if being close to a lot of things is really important to you, a hospital, stuff like that, Larson Ranch is not going to be a good fit for you.
All right, now to the west side of Colorado Springs, which is what I would probably imagine most of you view all of Colorado Springs being, right? You're close to trails, You're close to nature. The shopping and dining options are more mom and pop-ish. Like, you get a lot of versatility on the west side. But again, it comes with its own unique challenges. And this is one that stands out to me because I was showing a buyer, probably a week and a half ago, and a winter storm that randomly decided to pop through Colorado
In the middle
Springs.
of spring, you guys.
And what was crazy about it is one of the houses, which I'm so glad we ended up seeing it actually, it was on a pretty large hill. And I would say because of the nature of the west side of Colorado Springs, the elevation, how close you are to nature, they do build these houses on some funky grounds. And because this hill was so large, they were actually terrified that their front wheel drive car was just gonna roll down the hill in a winter storm. So if you are moving from out of state and you're not familiar with the weather patterns here, I would say that this is, again, something we'll make sure you're aware of if you're doing virtual tours with us. But parking and the hills in general and the elevation of your driveway can be a potential factor, especially if you do not have a garage, because I've seen it at my house and I do have a garage. But if I've parked in the driveway and it snows like crazy and ice is over, your car, and you'll see it all throughout Colorado Springs, cars will literally just like slide down the driveway, and mine is not steep at all. So especially on the west side, I feel like you have a lot of winds and curves, and it's not just the driveway, it is also the driving. If you're trying to get home and you live up this mountainous hillside, you definitely want four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and it can be a challenge in Colorado Springs for sure.
Well, and I think, once again, if you're someone who wants to be in kind of like a newer area, if you want to be close to everything, if you don't want to drive in the snow, the west side is not going to be for you because it is an older community, right? Now, good and bad with that. If you like more historic character homes, Westside is stunning. I mean, we've walked through so many beautiful homes where they don't build them like that, you guys, anymore. It's very cookie cutter now. And so if you're looking for like that more modern, updated, open layout, beautiful, bright, white walls, probably not going to be the west side. If you want something with some character, if you're not afraid of driving on those windy roads, thank goodness I have Sean, you guys, because even being born and raised in Colorado, I don't like to drive on those roads. I mean, they're super tiny. First off, I get like motion sickness with how you go in and out with everything, but that's just like not my cup of tea. So it's not something where I would ever want to live unless I continue to have a personal driver. But those are just like a few things to kind of keep in mind with the west side.
Yeah, and I'm going to group downtown Colorado Springs into this category too, because again, the parking situation here and the streets in general, they're a lot more narrow than other areas of Colorado Springs. So parking, I was showing a house, this one was actually last week, and they wanted to see one, I think it was on this street called Casa La Pudre. And one of their big things is that they wanted to have a garage. Well, this house did not have a garage. It was a one-car driveway. So thankfully I was in my truck because I was not going to let them park on the street. They were terrified to get hit by traffic coming from the downtown people that love to party on Friday, Saturday nights, and then maybe or maybe not drive home intoxicated. So I had them park in the driveway, but then I pulled my truck literally onto the sidewalk. We were there for 15 minutes, so it is what it is. But same thing, like street parking sometimes is the reality when you live on the downtown or west side of Colorado Springs. So something to keep in mind.
Yep, close to downtown, a little bit more historic, but definitely some bigger flaws if you're not prepared for it.
And my last gripe about downtown west side Colorado Springs, just because I hate it breaks my heart, but I will say, just for your education purposes, the homeless population tends to be a lot more visible on the west side and downtown Colorado Springs. There's been initiatives to try to help it and to try to support it, but I think with any major city, you're going to have it somewhere. So just for your education and knowledge, west side and downtown Colorado Springs is unfortunately where you're going to see that the most.
Now we have, one more?
East side.
So the east side.
Our side.
We're a little biased, you guys, as you know, but there are some...
Biased, but there's things that I hate.
I was going to say there are some things that we want to warn you guys about because it's not as amazing as we might make it look.
So right now we live in Peyton, which is just east of Colorado Springs, but prior to that we were in Banning Lewis Ranch, which was on the east side of Colorado Springs. So if you can't tell from the way that we're speaking, things definitely are growing east in Colorado Springs and into other cities as well. But because of that, my biggest gripe is how far I am away from I-25. I-25 runs north and south in Colorado Springs. It is on the west side of Colorado Springs. So in order for me to get there, I have to take Meridian Road to Woodman, and then I just basically take Woodman all the way to the complete opposite end of town to the west side so that I can get onto I-25. So if you are driving to, say, Denver on a frequent basis and you want proximity to I-25, you might hate the east side. It might not even be on your radar, because I'm telling you, from someone who drives like, I don't know, 35, 40,000 miles a day, or not a day, a year, 40,000 miles a year, that drive to I-25 can seem forever. And then of course you get there and you have to go to your other destination. So proximity to I-25, D- in my books.
Yeah. Well, and as much as there's growth, right? We have a ton of growth. But the selections of really what we have there are still very, very limited. Now, I love it because we do have your main stuff, right? Your main staples. And there is a hospital that's within about 15 to 18 minutes away, which that's great. There is grocery stores, there's gas stations. But if you want a nice dinner, you're driving 30 minutes away. If you want to go to a comedy club or go to the movie theater, you're driving 30 minutes away. So that is kind of like a want with where we live, and kind of like more that east side in general. Now, the flip side of that, cost of living, because, you know, we are your local real estate agent, so we have to kind of throw that in anywhere. You get more bang for your buck. Even with the growth is just adding value into all the homes. So they're gradually going up. I mean, we just had a buyer who purchased, it was like a 3,800 square foot home for about $600,000 on a huge lot. So still within the community, because they love that community feel, but not right on top of your neighbor. And so I think that that's a huge bonus, but you have consequences, I guess, with that.
The consequences are that beautiful house backed up to open space. And when you're on the east side with the open plains, the wind is outrageous.
Yes.
I think Colorado Springs in general is probably, I would say, more windy than some other cities, but you definitely notice it on the east side. There's just so much more wind there. When I get up and I go out to the truck, I'm like, holy smokes, it's so windy. If you haven't watched the show before, I drive to Lifetime first thing in the morning. That's a gym in Briargate. And I get to Briargate and there's like zero wind. So the wind out on the east side is definitely something. If you hate the wind, or if the wind causes allergies or anything like that.
Well, I was going to say, that's a whole other thing too, right? Because with the wind, like, we do have, you know, bigger weeds, and you have pollen, and I think allergy season is kind of all year round on the east side because of the wind and kind of the flat plains, and you have more dairy farms, and you have more farms in general, and that all just kind of brings a whole different vibe with the air, and so that your allergies are always messed up, I think.
It's super interesting too on the east side, because east side, like, very minimal, like the trees and things like that have not matured very much. You're not going to see huge trees like you will on the west side or the north side. South side is 50-50. It's like pockets of nothing, but I would say more so you still get a lot of like mature trees and things like that. But just outside of like Peyton is Black Forest, which is this beautiful trees on top of trees on top of trees for miles and miles and miles. So it's really interesting that you have like the eastern plain where there's really nothing, not a whole lot of trees.
Bunch of windmills.
And then you get nothing but trees in Black Forest, which I guess is just a little bit further north, but just something kind of funny.
Yeah. So there you guys go. We shared a little bit about north, south, east, and west.
And why you should avoid those areas.
Yep. So if you are looking to relocate here to Colorado Springs or any of the surrounding areas, my name's Crystal, this is Sean, and we are always happy to answer any questions that you may have. And until the next time,
subscribe to the channel, watch all these great videos.
We have a ton of them.
And we'll see you in the next one.